So if you are following me on Twitter or Instagram, thank you. You'll be a little bit more familiar with who I am and what I do. My name is, I'm Ink Monkey Hope on Instagram and Twitter. My name is Sandra Hope, and I have been working in comics for, and it's crazy to say it, but it has been, I say, over 20 years. And it has been over 20 years. Let's see exactly how long. It's hard to say because I was doing this a little bit part-time. I started inking kind of part-time, just as an experimental, fun, silly thing on the side. Before I actually quit my work and started inking full-time. So those of you who may know who I am or may have followed my work from Wildstorm, which is where I started, that's where I got my first inking assignment. I started as an assistant for a few guys over at Wildstorm. I was assisting. They actually called me in to assist for Trevor Scott, Alex Garner, Sal Regla, when I guess it was probably around maybe 95, 96, something like that. So that's where I started. I didn't know how to do anything. I gave Jim some samples, and he thought, well, gosh, poor guy. He was being very generous, but he thought that the guys might be able to use me as an assistant to fill in blacks and to basically do some backgrounds and, some panel borders, stuff that I, really can't mess up too much on. But that's how I got started, was inking those guys. So see, I was gonna say long story short, but it's kind of long story, not that short, is it? So so after a little while, Trevor offered me a job being his assistant, full-time assistant, and that would require me to leave what I was doing before I was interested in inking. And I thought, oh, what the heck, why not? Just for fun, I'll give it a try. Just to learn a little bit more about art, a little more about comics, a little bit more about inking, and just to experiment, because this was when Image was kind of big, and everyone made such a big deal about the studio, about comics, about Image, and the truth is I didn't know much about comics or Image or art, to be honest. So I thought it would be kind of a fun little detour to before I locked myself into the real world and a real career. But so that's how it started. And let's see, so I assisted Trevor for a little while. And I hung out at the studio all the time. I learned as much as I possibly could. I looked at everything, and I practiced, and I tried to copy all the stuff that I thought was kind of cool looking. So anyhow, maybe I'll tell more of these little stories later, but I'll try to keep it general. So I started at Wildstorm, and after a little while, my first big assignment was I got to ink a couple Brett Booth pages for Backlash, and and that was purely because the studio was in need. No one else was at the studio. A page came in and it needed to be done. It needed to be inked. And who was the only one that was there? So I was at the studio from like 7 in the morning to 7 at night, like every day. I was the first one there, and pretty much the last one to leave. If I left at all, there were times when I was there overnight and it was kind of scary, but I was there by myself. It's probably not the safest thing to do, but I was there. So anyhow, the my first project on my own was inking Dan Norton on Black Ops. So that was my first book. And then after that, I got to try out for a cliffhanger book, which was, and you know, all the guys had their selection of inkers, and I think that Umberto was kind enough to let me try out for Crimson. So that was my first series, and first real big project was on Crimson, and that was awesome. I learned so much. Everything I know, I learned on the job. So thank you, Umberto, for that. He took a big risk. He did. He really did. And I appreciate that. So that was my first big project with Wildstorm. My first big project with DC was over Ed Bennis, Justice League, written by Brad Meltzer. And I think that was the first time I really got noticed for doing a project outside of Wildstorm. But before that came around, I mean, and you know, I joke all the time that for the first 15 years of my career, I did not sleep. And I pretty much didn't. I think the most sleep I got was maybe 3 or 4 hours. And there were nights when I did not sleep. But I did everything I could to just make myself available to ink everything that needed to be inked. And the biggest advantage I had was always being at the studio. And I said no to no assignments. Everything that came up, I said, yes, absolutely, I can ink it. Absolutely. I'll stay up, whatever it takes. So just being present was a huge help in getting a lot of these opportunities. So over 20 years later, here I am. I'm still learning quite a bit. So hopefully you're here to join me and learn with me. I keep saying that I know for the longest time I kept saying I'm still a rookie. I still feel like I am, because there's still so much for me to learn. So you know, I don't think I'll ever feel like I'm caught up, but basically I am just one of the many inkers working in comics, and I wanted to share a little bit more of what inking is, because not a lot of people know what inking is. And you know, again, I'm just not great at describing what it is. It's, you know, you can use all kinds of words, and you can joke about it, but I don't think you really understand what it is until you're actually doing it. And I'm hopping around a lot, and I'm subject wise and inking wise, but so anyhow, so this is me semi introducing myself to you, and how I got started in the business. And I have been working with Wildstorm in DC. I mean, the whole time with Wildstorm until DC took over or bought Wildstorm from Jim. And from then, I have just been doing mainly DC work, and I am still doing mainly DC work. I haven't really ventured out to other companies. Their company, I guess, the main big one. But I am currently working on Superman Giant with Andy Kubert, written by Tom King, colored by the wonderful Brad Anderson. And unfortunately, people are saying it's hard to find. So hopefully, one of these days, I believe it will be collected, and I hope more accessible to people, because I think it's a really great story, and it's really fun. It's been fun for me. I look forward to each chapter. So I hope you all get to read it and enjoy the art. Not for the inking, but the story is awesome. I think Tom's doing a wonderful job, and Andy is awesome, and I am so grateful that he gives me a lot of freedom. And you can see I'm just kind of hopping all over the place, doing all kinds of stuff. These are just like a whole bunch of little buildings, and I have all these other stuff taped off just so you guys don't see too much, because this is current work. So again, I always say that my videos unscripted, unedited. It's just me talking. So I am sure I probably went off subject several times, because I'm trying to, whoops, see? I'm trying to keep this centered, trying to keep my light from moving, and it keeps moving. So it looks like you are getting an eclipse or something, or the sun is moving. I'm trying not to knock my camera around, which I just did, and I'm trying to talk at the same time. I don't know how long this is, but I'm trying to keep these videos short, like 10 minutes short, and it's probably longer than 10 minutes. But so I didn't get much background done here, but hopefully you got to know me a little bit better, and I'll try not to talk too much about myself and just make this about inking. So hopefully you are a little more familiar with who I am, because like I said, information on the internet, everyone, I think it's important to know, like when you're getting your information, you need to know your source, and not that I'm any more or less official than anyone else, but at least you know who it's coming from. And it's not, again, this is not like the only way to ink. It just happens to be my way of doing it. And I'm sure there's lots of things that I'm doing wrong, but I always say there's no wrong or right. It's just however you choose to do it. And but you are always welcome to come and join me at work, which is basically what all my videos are.